Zuber and Company, fire forensic experts and forensic engineers. Seeking answers from ashes. Seeking answers.
Everything is gone! We are finished!
But the lock is completely fine. There is no sign of forced entry.
Today, we're jumping into a real-life story that's a bit of a cautionary tale. It's about a business owner who thought he was protected by his insurance, only to discover a huge, expensive surprise hidden in the fine print.
I mean, just picture it for a second. You run a business, you've got an insurance policy, you get robbed. It's a total nightmare, but there's that one little piece of comfort. Hey, at least I'm insured. I'm covered. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
Well, as one shop owner found out, it's not always that simple. This is the story of how a claim for nearly 22.5 lakh rupees got completely rejected, all because of one single clause. So let's get into what actually happened.
Okay, so our story kicks off with something that, unfortunately, is a business owner's worst nightmare: a break-in. So here's how it all went down. On the night of April 22, 2011, an electronics shop gets burgled. The owner does what you're supposed to do. He files a police report the very next day. 6 days later, he notifies the insurance company. And then he waits and waits. It took until October of 2013, more than 2 years later, to get the final word. And that word was, claim denied.
And we're not talking about a small loss here. The claim was for over 22.5 lakh rupees worth of stolen electronics. For any business, a hit like that is just devastating. It's the whole reason you pay for insurance to begin with, right?
So as you can imagine, this denial kicked off a major legal battle. You have the shop owner on one side and this giant insurance company on the other. Let's look at what they were both arguing.
The shop's argument was pretty simple. Look, we were robbed, the police have a report, we lost a ton of money, we have a burglary policy, pay us. But the insurer's response was just as blunt. Nope, you didn't follow the rules of the policy, you breached the contract, so we're not paying.
So what was this breach of contract all about? Well, the insurance company's entire case really rested on two main points, two things they said the shop owner got wrong.
All right, so the first reason the insurer gave for denying the claim, it had nothing to do with the theft itself. It was all about the timing.
The insurance company pointed to this number, 6. It took 6 days for the shop owner to formally tell them about the break-in. And they said their policy required immediate notice.
So the insurer said that 6-day delay was a clear breach of the rules. They even called the owner's reason, a family illness, vague. But the shop owner argued back, saying, come on, we told the police right away a 6-day delay telling you guys is just a small technical thing. It doesn't change the fact that we were robbed.
And what's really interesting here is that the shop owner wasn't alone in this thinking. India's own insurance regulator, the IRDA, had actually put out a notice saying insurers shouldn't just deny legitimate claims because of small technicalities like a minor delay.
And at first, that argument worked. The court sided with the shop, saying a 6-day delay was no reason to deny such a huge legitimate claim. So round one goes to the shop owner. But the insurance company had another argument, and this one was way more powerful.
And this is where the whole case takes a fascinating turn. It all comes down to the definition of one little word and the physical evidence, or maybe the lack of it.
The insurance company's big knockout argument was this question. Okay, you say it was a burglary, but where's the proof that anyone actually forced their way in? They were basically saying there was no evidence of a real break-in.
See, their surveyor pointed out that they were never shown any broken locks. But the shop owner's defense was, completely logical. He said, your guy didn't even show up for 27 days. What was I supposed to do? Leave my shop wide open for a month? Of course I had to fix the locks and repair the damage right away.
And you know what? Once again, the court totally agreed with the shop owner. They used common sense and said, look, if thieves get into a locked shop in the middle of the night, they obviously had to use some kind of force. It seemed like another clear win. At this point, it really looked like the shop owner was going to get his money. But this is where everything changed. This is the moment the whole case flips on its head, because the final decision wasn't about common sense, it wasn't about police reports, it was all about a few specific words buried deep inside that insurance policy.
And here it is. This is the police's own definition of burglary.
It wasn't just stealing. It was theft that happened after an actual forcible and violent entry. Those three words, actual, forcible, and violent, were everything.
And this is the legal principle that just sealed the deal. The Supreme Court had already ruled on a case like this, and they basically said when it comes to an insurance claim, it doesn't matter what criminal law says. The only thing that matters is the definition written in the contract you signed. The policy creates its own little world with its own rules.
So let's just unpack this for a second. Why was this one little clause strong enough to completely undo those earlier court decisions?
This is the key lesson right here. For you, for me, for the police, burglary means someone broke in and stole stuff. Simple. But in the world of that specific insurance policy, burglary only counted if there was hard physical proof of a forcible and violent entry. Our common sense understanding of the word, it just didn't matter. So this was the heartbreaking final verdict. The court said that because there were no broken locks saved as evidence, the shop owner couldn't prove that an actual, forcible and violent entry happened. So even though everyone knows a theft occurred, it didn't count as a burglary according to the strict definition in the contract. And just like that, the claim for over 22 lakh rupees was denied for good.
This whole story is such a powerful and frankly expensive reminder for all of us. We think we know what our insurance policies cover. You know, things like theft or fire. But this case asks a much more important question. Do you know how your policy defines those words? Because at the end of the day, that fine print isn't just a bunch of boring text. It's the only thing that really counts.